So Leah, you are a freshman at Grove City College and you grew up here at New Life. I know a lot of people in our congregation know about the accident that you were in 2 years ago with the other girls from Hermitage, but my guess is that some people don't know what we're talking about. So tell us about the accident.
So 2 years ago, on February 10th of 2019, I was in a car accident on the way to Grove City College to a Young Life event. I was driving 3 of my friends and roads were unexpectedly icy and snowy. And so we were on I-80 and ended up getting into an accident with 2 semi-trucks in our car. And the result of that was 2 of my friends passing away, and then my other friend and I rushed to the hospital where we ended up spending a few weeks.
So what was life like after the accident?
After the accident, I had little to no memory at all. I was not able to process anything. I couldn't remember 1 minute to the next, and that was a result of my traumatic brain injury and brain bleeds. Eventually, when my family ended up telling me the reality of the accident, I told them that I felt an immediate hug and sense of reassurance, and I think that can only come from the Lord. But a few minutes later, I felt the feelings of guilt and responsibility. And those were 2 feelings that I have just been juggling back and forth with the past 2 years. I would go to Pittsburgh 3 days a week for therapies. I would go to countless appointments. I missed 3 months of school because cognitively I just couldn't handle it. Physically, I eventually was healing, and but that just went with a lot of work too. But eventually that led me to push the emotional healing aside. And so eventually when I was ready to deal with that, it was really hard because I pushed it off for so long. Going through that, I just felt feelings of hopelessness, loss, frustration, and pretty much anything you can think of. And so I went to counseling for it, where I got diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and then more recently, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So I have been dealing with those things for the past 2 years, and I'm still working through them, but I've definitely been able to see true healing from the Lord and from my counseling.
Well, I know that God has never promised us perfect lives as Christians, and thankfully He is with us through those hard times. And I'm thinking about people in the Bible. Some of them went through some really tough things. And I see, though, that God brought good out of those horrible situations. So, Leah, in your life and the trauma that you've gone through, do you feel that God has brought good out of that?
Absolutely. So, I was able to see Danielle and Alexis commit their lives to Christ just the year before the accident. And that gave me a sense of peace, knowing that they were dancing with Jesus in heaven and that they had made a public profession of faith. And my faith has been shaken tremendously through this. And my relationship with the Lord has grown drastically. I realized a whole new urgency, and I had a whole new motivation for spreading the word, because I know that life can be really short and there's an urgency behind salvation and getting people to know the word of the Lord. So my perspective has changed on what it means to trust in the Lord, because I was able to see Him pick me up and put me back together. And that has just been a big blessing, and being able to share my testimony and allow others to hear it as well. It has also been a blessing seeing the community come together and our church family coming together over a tragedy. And everybody that was affected was able to really love on each other and trust in the Lord. And it was just a blessing to see how much people have grown and grown together through this.
Well, I know that you and Emily had something special planned on the 2-year anniversary of the accident this past February 10th. Tell us about that.
That's usually a day that we really dread coming, and we know it's going to be a day full of loss and mourning. So we wanted to be able to change the perspective of that day to a day of love and spreading the love to others. So we created 210 acts of kindness, and that is a day where we would put together 210 bags and spread them out to the community of Pittsburgh. And so we passed them out to people that are homeless and people just walking on the streets. And those bags had gift cards for food, canned goods, waters, hand sanitizers, blankets, and clothes and everything else. And so we were able to spread the love around the Pittsburgh community that day. And it was really good in changing our perspective. However, we were not able to do it on February 10th. I ended up testing positive for COVID that day. And so we were not able to do it on that day, but I was able to see, I was able to find peace in that because the Lord wanted me to be in isolation that day in order for me to feel the feelings and emotions and everything I needed to feel that day in order to get through it. And it was obviously not changing my perspective. I was able to see the Lord kind of canceling my plans so he could have his, and it just kind of gave me a whole new idea of trying not to plan as much as I am, because ultimately I don't have that much authority over my life.
Well, how much money were you trying to raise, and how much did you actually raise?
So we were trying to raise $2,100, and we ended up raising $7,500, which was crazy, and that's all thanks to our community and the Lord for providing that for us. It was really great to see our community coming together over this project to help us out.
So awesome. Leah, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know that's not an easy thing to do, and I know that there are people here in our church that needed to hear that today. So thank you so much. Thanks for allowing God to use you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.